Welcome to the Waypool podcast. It's a pleasure after a while, Leann. We've been talking a couple of months to make this happen.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. And I think for those in the States that are looking at this, they know exactly who you are. So for them, this is familiar faces, but for the Scandinavian and European listeners or watchers, could you please introduce yourselves and let's take it from there.
Okay. My name is Leeann, and I am the owner of Maxx Performance Custom Weight Pull Harnesses. We make custom weight pull harnesses. I do ship them all over. So I have shipped to Hungary, to Sweden, Canada. The shipping's kind of crazy, though, whenever you do ship outside of the States. But yeah, so we make the custom weight pull harnesses. And this is my design team here.
I am Ron, the employee.
The
That's
employee.
it. I'm the sidekick.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. And you do a little bit more than just make harnesses. Yeah.
Well, we also currently pull, so we are competitive with pulling the dogs as well. That's actually how it started. We pulled first, obviously, and yes, we do all sports with our dogs.
Yeah. And let's go into the sports side to begin with. How did it happen that you started with the weight pulling?
Well, so originally we started out, he did personal protection work with our dogs. We had never seen or heard of weight pulling until we went to a dog show here in Houston. We're in Texas. And we went to it was called the World Series of Dog Shows, and they had weight pulling there. And that was the first time we had seen it. And that's probably back in 2015 or 16, possibly. It wasn't on rails. It was a cart. It was indoors, and they were pulling bags of dog food. And they actually had a stadium. They had like stadium seating, and people were cheering. I mean, there was a lot of people there. And that was the first time we had seen it. And I told him, I was so amazed. I was like, I've got to do that. I want to do that with a dog. But it took a couple of years before we actually got into it. But we started out, we've always had dogs, but he mainly was doing personal protection work, civil, not sport is where we started. And then I saw that. And then we were looking for a dog because we were mainly into American bulldogs. And a lot of the American bulldogs here in the United States, the breeding has, they can't breathe very well. And with the type of personal protection that we were doing, we were looking for a dog that could breathe and could work better, still staying within the American Bulldog. And we came across someone in Portugal that breeds, and we saw his page, and a lot of his dogs were very sporty. So he contacted him, and then I'll let him finish telling the rest of that.
Well, so the time went by, and actually we had almost forgotten about the weight pull, even though that's what she wanted to do. But I was into personal protection training, and I had a bulldog. His name was Ramsey. Great bulldog, great personal protection dog. Not a sport dog, but actually a bite dog. He was for our protection. And I wanted to breed him so that I could keep his line going. But I couldn't find any bulldogs in the United States that I wanted to breed with. So actually, I came across Amede Bulls in Portugal, and I met him online, and I told him, okay, I need a dog for protection work. And he said, okay. And he showed me several litters, and I saw all the sport work that he was doing with the Dog Cross Federation. And I saw that he was opening up arenas. And so I sent him a message, and I said, I made a little meme that said HDB's Arena, Texas. And he sent back big smiley faces, and he goes, are you for real? And I said, sure. And he said, okay. So we started trying to communicate. He's from France. And of course, I don't speak French at all, and he speaks a little English. and I was trying to get some stuff, and he sent me a message, and he said, "Hey, it would actually be better if you just came here." And I said, "You mean if I just came to Portugal?" He goes, "Yeah, come to Portugal." He said, "I'll train you in the DCF." So I said, "Okay." So I got off the computer. I asked Leeann, I said, "Hey, you want to go to Portugal?" And she said, "When?" I said, "Maybe like 2 weeks." And she goes, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I called the guy back and I said, "When's a good time?" He goes, "When do you think?" I said, "Well, as soon as you want."
As soon as we can get a
As soon
passport.
as we can get a passport and we can go. So I bought 3 tickets actually for me, my daughter, and Leanne to go to Portugal within 2 weeks. And we went over there and we stayed about a week and a half. And we saw him training for the Dog Cross Federation and the weight pool. And we remembered that she really liked the weight pool. And so he set us up with, he said, when you get back to the States, he said, check with Brian Hosfeld. He said, he'll show you his track. I said, okay. So we came back after staying almost 2 weeks over there, and we contacted Brian, which we did not know. And I said, Brian, or actually she said, hey, Brian, my husband wants to build a track. And he said, what for? And she said, for weight pulling. He goes, do you have any dogs? And we're like, no.
We didn't even have a dog yet.
We didn't have a dog yet that would pull.
And he thought I was crazy.
He thought he was crazy.
He was like, most people don't start out with a track. And I'm like, but if I want to win, don't I need a track? And he was like, well, yeah, but it takes a lot of patience. I guess he thought he called us the crazy Texans.
Yeah.
He didn't believe us. And so he was like, well, maybe we can find you someone to make you a track. Well, then he checked into that. And I think because he thought we weren't serious, because he did say a lot of people, they get into it and it's so much work that then they get out. And so I think he was just trying to protect us because he was like, that's just way too expensive, to have one made. And we're very handy. And so we were like, well, why don't we just make one? And so he was very nice. He actually went out. I've never met him before, just called him out of the blue. This crazy girl that don't even have a dog yet wants to weight pull and is asking, how do I build a track? And so he was very nice, and he went out to his barn and he took his track apart and made videos and sent me pictures and everything, how his track was made. And he went and bought a welding machine, and we found all the metal.
Yeah, she showed me.
Within a week.
No, it wasn't within a week. It was within, I took
2
off
days.
work. I took off work and I started putting it together. And 2 days later, we call him basically and say, okay, we built a track. And he goes, are you serious?
We showed him the cart rolling.
I showed
down
him the
the
cart
rails,
rolling. He
and
goes,
he went, holy, I'm not going to cuss, but yes.
No,
He
yeah.
was
like, you guys are crazy. So we actually built the track and we got the dog from Portugal and she started working it. I mean, we really didn't know what we were doing, but I had done lots of dog training. And so I had kind of an idea, and Brian was helping us a lot. And so it was like, I think it was 6 months later, we went to nationals. Nationals was our very first weight pull ever. We took her dog straight to nationals.
And he placed third. Yeah.
Wow.
And we learned a whole lot about it very fast.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
When we decide to do something, we just kind of jump in, obviously, head first. The dog that we brought back from Portugal was not supposed to be our dog. We actually went over there to get them for a client of ours for personal protection. The dog turned out to be way too much, and this lady always had little furry dogs, and we told her it was not the dog for her. She was scared of it as a puppy. It ended up being my dog, obviously my first weight pull dog. And so we actually started him much later than you normally would. He was probably 7 or 8 months old.
Yeah, much later than I would start a dog now.
And we were doing personal protection with him. And then I was like, well, he's the perfect one we can weight pull. And then come to find out, actually, he was a Hosfeld dog. His
mom was a Hosfeld dog.
Right. And so the guy in Portugal, he actually came to America before we knew him and got a Hosfeld dog and went home and then bred his weight pull dog to this dog. So it come to find out, my dog actually had Hosfeld blood. So we had never competed or anything. We just went at it, and our first competition was at Brian's home when he had it at his house at nationals, and we placed third, and I was hooked.
I didn't have a dog.
And he
No.
was my cheerleader.
I was the cheerleader.
Wow. Yeah,
So that's how we started.
yeah,
Just jumped in.
that might be the craziest start story I've ever heard. Yeah.
It probably is. And the harness making is not much after that.
Oh,
That's just as
yeah.
crazy.
So,
Yeah.
but when was this? Because you saw weight pulling first in 2015, and then
Yeah. And this was about
COVID.
right before COVID.
Right before COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the same thing when I went to COVID, when I went to Portugal, and he goes, "So do you want to do an arena?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "Well, when are you thinking?" I said, "Well, how long will it take me to build one?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know." And I said, "Well, I'm being serious. I wouldn't have flown to Portugal to learn what you're doing if I wasn't serious." And so when we came back, we immediately started building an arena, and that's how we built the track, wall climb. If you check out HGB's Arena Texas, you'll see all of our events that we have and more. Same with the Firepaw treadmills. So we do the treadmill racing and everything because we were originally learning for the Dog Cross Federation. But when we came back over here, the dog cross stuff hadn't been as big as the weight pull. But right as we started everything, COVID came, and then it kind of shut everything down. So
We stuck with the weight pull because that just kept going. Everybody kept doing the weight pulling. So we had my dog Major. We did the nationals. I think that was 2018 or 19.
yes, and I had also gotten a dog from Portugal. She would have been a great weight puller, but she died. I don't know if she had a heart murmur or something. She died pretty quick, but she would have been good. Then I tried another dog, and that dog blew its knee out. And then I tried another dog, and it had no interest in weight pulling, and she kept the same dog the whole time. So it was up for me to like find a dog to catch up, you know? So needless to say, that's where I discovered one of the first things you should do if you're going to get into weight pulling and get the right dog. That's rule number one. You can not just all dogs will pull, but to what extent? That's a whole nother story.
yeah, exactly. And that's the big part. As you said, all dogs will pull, and then to the extent. But and then, how do you find a good dog to start pulling with?
How do you find a good dog? Well, there's the hard part because I'm going to tell you, as open as the weight pull is, it's very closed off. The good dogs, I'll be honest, are not accessible to everyone. That is the problem. They'll all have them, but to put them in the hands that can do stuff with them, that's the problem. But I will tell you, without all of the, I don't want to say bad dogs that I had, they taught me a lot about pulling. If you can get a dog who's not bred to pull, then you can get a dog who pulls pretty easy. But finding one of those is hard because they won't sell them to just anyone. That's the absolute truth.
Yeah. And it's a big difference when you see, at least you have weight pull bred dogs over there.
Yes.
We pretty much don't have that, at least in Scandinavia. So the two dogs I competed with were show dogs, and to get them to pull, that was quite easy, but I had to be like a schizophrenic because they were so different. And I always competed. We do classes, weight classes by weight class, not a continuous pull.
Right.
So they were always in classes after each other. So so I always had to switch how to do it with both.
Yeah,
dogs.
I had a lot of people tell me, "Hey, you really know what you're doing. You just have the wrong dogs."
Yeah.
and it turns out that was so true.
Yeah. So but you started with American Bulldogs, and you continued with that and still today, or how's it looking now?
We did switch over to, and we always had American Pit Bull Terriers before we had the American Bulldogs. But with the weight pulling, we started with the American Bulldogs. But when you get older and those big dogs start yanking you around, and you're like, they're just too much. So right now mainly we're pulling our American Pit Bull Terriers, and we actually have some very small pit bulls too. So that we don't really pull the American Bulldogs anymore.
I like pulling them, but
They're just a lot of dogs.
it's a lot of dog. And the training them is totally different than the small ones, because the bulldogs, the pit bulls mature much faster than the American bulldogs. Even though I like pulling the American bulldogs, I'm much older, and the stubbornness, if you get one and it doesn't, it's just rough, So now I'm trying to actually even breed the smaller dogs. So our lightest one just pulled at nationals at 19 pounds. And she's a full-blooded pit bull, but she's very small.
Yeah, that's small. Yeah.
Yeah, she's 19. She pulled in 19 pounds. She walks around probably 24 pounds. And our biggest pit bull that we pulled was 40 pounds, but he probably walks around at 44. And compared to the American Bulldog, the smallest we have pulls at like 65, so it's just rough. I'd rather pull the small ones.
Yeah. There's big difference in the daily
Easier
work
to
as
ship
well.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And how long did it take before you started to make harnesses?
So we ended up getting another pit bull, and she was for our son. And we didn't have that because we were doing the American Bulldogs. We had big harnesses. We didn't have any smaller ones. But at the time, two of the main makers here in the United States had stopped making. So I couldn't get a small harness. I looked around online, and I came across another maker. I ordered 3, which was stupid of me to do, but I ordered 3 different sizes. I was like, well, if I'm going to order, I'm just going to go ahead and get some. And when they got here, they were really bad.
No, they weren't really bad. They were horrible.
Just the quality, how they were made, everything about them was, and I would say we don't even really know a whole lot about it at the time. But I knew that those were no good. And I was like, well, there's really nowhere else to get them that I know of, or they're weeks and weeks and weeks out. And we have this puppy we need to start training. We are actually, our profession is ballroom dancing, and I would make custom ball gowns for our clients, our students. And so I thought, oh, how hard can a harness be? Well, it can be very hard.
It can be very hard, yeah.
So I was like, I guess I'm going to try to make one for this dog, and that's how it started, was because I just wanted to make for our dog. And it took a while, I will tell you, and it was going just to the little store and buying cheap little fabric, a little cheap sewing machine, just to see what I could do. And then we have so many dogs at all different sizes. So we were able to kind of play with the sizing. But
no, I would have to tell you, this is how it truly went.
What do you mean?
So my son's dog I got from a guy who bred weight pull dogs.
Yeah.
His name was Carl Burton, and she was a little bitty dog. My son's not into weight pulling.
No.
So I told my son, let me train the dog. So I found out when you had a real weight pulling dog, it's much easier to train. And so we had talked about getting some harnesses. We had gotten a harness for her big dog, but it took so long to get a harness. And I'm such an impatient person. You could tell me it's $100 more and I'll get it to you within a week. I'm going to pay the $100 more because I don't want to wait 2 months. Okay. And so she said, I found a place probably on Etsy or something.
Yeah, it was,
and so she shows me the harnesses and I'm like, oh my God, these are freaking horrible.
He goes, call her back.
I go, call her back. She goes, no. She goes, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to return them. I said, it's okay. I said, look, you've made $10,000 ball gowns. I'm like, this can't be that hard. And she's like,
It's different.
she's like, it's different. I said, okay. So I put this god awful, I wish I had video. I put this god awful harness on my dog. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, where's your seam ripper? So I start ripping this harness apart. Now I've got this harness with the straps all off on it. I put it on the dog and I'm like, here, give me some pins, some needles. And I'm like, I need this.
You're gonna stick the
She goes, you're
dog.
going to stick the dog. I'm like, no, I need it sewn right here. I need it sewn right here. This strap needs to be here. This strap needs to be here. Wait, the neck's not right. Okay, pin it here, pin it here. Then I think, oh shit, I got to get this off of the dog, and it's full of needles.
And the dog's standing there like, what's going on?
And she's like, I'm like, Leann's like, you're gonna stick her any minute. And I'm like, no, let's do this. I said, we can do this. She goes, it's not as easy as you think. I'm like, sure it is. Just sew right here, sew right here. She goes, it's not that easy.
Still, he's like that.
I'm feeling
right
that.
here. I'm like,
So we get the harness off of the dog and we make several adjustments and I put it on the dog and it looks much better. Okay, like much better. And I'm like, let's try it. So we tried it.
not as a business, just for our own
just for
dogs.
our dogs. Because I told her, look, I don't want to wait. If you can make them, I'll get you to make them for our dog. So she's like, okay, we'll try it. And so we got it off the dog. She sewed it together and I go, hey, this ain't even our harness. I go, but it's much better than what it was. Okay. So it was looking pretty good. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you need to try to make another one just completely on your own. And so she's like, I don't even know. So I start talking to a client of ours who is a rocket scientist for NASA. And I say, hey, I need to know if the dog is doing this and this and this, what is the optimal angle that I can make this to make this dog pull better? And of course, him being an engineer, he can't ever just answer a simple question. He's like, well, what are you trying to do? And I'm like, well, this is it. And if the dog is this tall, and this is this, and if the dog is this short, this is this. And Leann's like, well, you know what? She goes, I got to find a simple math formula to make this.
It turned out to be trigonometry.
Yeah.
Don't sleep in math class back when you're in high school.
So it was
It's like, oh my gosh, trigonometry.
Yeah. So she makes one for her dog Major. And her dog Major looked good in the harness. Now, no, it wasn't as good as the one we had bought from the harness maker who'd been making them for a while, but we put it on him and we go, hey, it pulls pretty good, And so Brian and Melinda and James Stevenson all said, so can you make harnesses? And Leann's like, no. She goes, just for our dogs.
We were at nationals.
Yeah. So, we were like,
VA nationals.
yeah, we were kind of like, if it's bad on our dog, it's no problem. If it's bad on your dog, we don't want that. And she's bad about that. Me, I'm like, you can do it. You can do it.
I'm
She's
like,
no, I can't. No, I can't.
I don't want to.
Yeah. So, they're like, you should try it. You should try it. So at that point, I would have to tell you, because my memory is probably better than hers, because she's old, but it's okay. It's okay. It happens. So,
just 1 second. Is there like an intermission so I can?
So we started, and I would tell her, hey, tilt it this way and tilt it this way. And what happens if we tilt it this way and tilt it this way? And we found out, some would make the dog pull high, some would make the dog go down, some would be too big. So literally, I would be willing to bet she made 200 trial harnesses, okay, that we would try different things and tilt it. And at least we had one dog who pulled pretty good. So we thought, if this dog pulls pretty good, let's just see how it affects the dog. Okay. Now, she did get accused of copying people's harnesses. And the first thing we said is, why would we want to copy anything that we don't like? Okay. That's the number one thing. So we tried it and made some adjustments and kept trying in different things. And then we convinced her, I think, did Brian say he wanted to try one, or we told Brian to try one?
So along this whole process, we became, after the craziness of the Texans building a track, we became pretty close friends with Brian and Melinda. And he kept pushing me.
He's like, you ought to make them.
You need to do it. And then I had him pushing me, and then Brian pushing me, and fine, I will do it. So I said, I'll tell you what, let me just make one and send it to you. Let me get the measurements of your dog and send it to you, because we all know Brian.
Actually, we tried to get several people to try them.
We did.
But not everybody was willing.
Right.
Because weight pullers, very superstitious. If they find a harness that their dog pulls good in, that's what they want to pull.
For sure.
So, and we figured if Brian's dogs are very consistent, right? And it's like, well, if I can let me send one to you and you test it for me and you tell me. And beforehand, I had talked to a few people and said, what is it you don't like about this particular harness? Not mine, but what is it? What are some of your concerns? And they're like, they never really thought about it. But they did tell me some
Can
things.
you guess what the number one complaint about harness makers was when we were asking what people would change?
No idea, actually.
Customer
I've
service.
been using 2 good harnesses my entire career, so I got pretty much the perfect one from the beginning. So yeah,
customer service was the number one complaint.
Oh, yeah,
they did not want to make changes. They did not answer their phones. They did not respond to emails. Some said, I'm not making harnesses anymore unless I know you. Okay. And so we said, hey, there's a market for this. And us being self-employed and kind of entrepreneurs, I told her, hey, let's go for it. Let's see what we can do. But we have to do things better than what's previously out there. Now, you think about the amount of weight pullers in the world compared to the amount of harness makers, there's no comparison. No. So there wasn't many people making it. So I would have to say the harness makers that made them could afford to be not very customer oriented because there was no one else that did it. So if you didn't like what they did, they could give you the middle paw and say, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
So I made a harness. I sent it to Brian. He put it on the track with his dog, Maxx. A lot of people know Maxx. And Maxx was still pretty young. But he put him on the track and he called me and he goes, yeah. He goes, it passed the test. It works. And I was like, okay. So he said it actually, he pulled better in it than his other harness and, according to him. So I was like, okay, well, I guess let's do this. So that's how it kind of got started. I have them to think because, he says he has people call him all the time. Where can I get a harness? And he goes, I'll send them to you. And that's what he started doing. So I started making for people.
But she still didn't believe it yet.
I still didn't believe it. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I did make a few and then we're like, if this is going to take off, I need a brand. I need a name. We need to do something because it was just him giving them my cell phone number. I didn't have a page or anything. And we're like, oh, so then it was the whole name of the thing. How do we come across that? Well, here, we're sitting in a casino and talking with Brian and Melinda on the phone while we're playing.
Going through names of
he wanted to do Texas toe straps.
Hey, tell her Texas toe straps would have been a great name for harnesses.
Yeah.
Right? See, he agrees. He agrees.
Brian said that's the most redneck I've ever.
All the way from Texas toe straps.
No. So I had seen something before with the little gauge, like this here on other signs and so since Maxx was the one that actually put me into motion, we did Maxx, but we're like, okay, we'll do the 2X's because it looks cool. Maxx Performance, get the Maxx Performance out of your dog. And then he came up with the design. I have a friend or someone in France that does logos, and he told him that he wanted it to look like performance is the track and then the dog is pulling the word Maxx through the Maxx of the gauge. And so that's how the logo came, because we know a lot of people are brand oriented. They like logos. And so well, if we even have a cool logo, eventually whenever it slows down a little bit, we'd like to do merchandise. Everybody sees I play around with it and do tumblers or keychains or shirts and things, and everybody loves the logo. So that's expanding into more. But that's how Maxx Performance. It's named after Max Kosfeld's dog.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Another great story.
Yes.
Yeah,
Another crazy story.
a crazy
Yeah,
story.
a
'cause
a
it
great
happened.
name as well, and I really like the logo, and yeah, the brand is it looks really good, and I can tell
Thank
that
you.
you are entrepreneurs. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
truly.
well,
But
he's the one
what
that
was it
pushes.
with? What was it that was so great with the harness that Max tried out?
You know,
Did
we
Brian tell you anything about it?
well, I'll tell you this. So we had pulled in several other harness makers things. There is, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there is a one guy who made harnesses that I'm going to tell you were excellent harnesses. Excellent harnesses. If we didn't make them, I would buy from him to this day. Okay. So my hats off to him because I think his harnesses were great. However, he's one of the guys that would call you and say, what kind of dog you have and what does it weigh? That was all he went off of. Okay. So like, for example, her dog Major, the harness was beautiful, fit perfect, except I would tell you it was about 2 foot too long. Okay.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
okay. But again, so many of these harness makers, they've been making for a long time. And it does get monotonous. She would tell you more than me. So if you told Leeann, I have a 30-pound dog and it's an American Pit Bull Terrier, she could roughly tell you what it is, as far as size wise. Okay. But most of them, I'm going to tell you, like anything else, they've been doing it for so long that they just go, this is what it is. But it's not always that.
You can line up, say, let's just take a woman, right? That's 120 pounds. Line up 10 of 120-pound women, and they're all shaped and built different. Same with dogs. Just because the dog is 40 pounds, it's going to be built slightly different than the next dog that's 40
You know,
pounds.
shorter dogs,
So,
taller dogs.
I like to get at least 6 measurements off of a dog before I make a harness. The only time that I would do by weight and breed is if I'm doing a puppy pack, so they're not pulling a lot of weight, right? So I do the small puppy packs, and that I do, at what age do you start pulling or training your dog in a harness? So that tells me around about what size, so that you're not, as long as I know the breed, because there would be adjustments. Then I do just by weight, but everything else is done. I'm very particular on the measurements that I want.
And they're all close.
Yes.
But I would tell you,
1/8 of an inch can make a huge difference. We've
Yeah.
seen that with testing them.
because it changes angles.
Yeah.
And if you don't change, it's not the same. You know, as an example, I'll tell you, we were at a last second making a harness for my dog Domino, and we hadn't tried pulling her anything. Okay. And so I was on the way to Hosfeld's to pull, and I hadn't tried it. And I went there, put the harness on her, and the first thing she did was rear it up. And I go, oh, what the hell? She's never done that. Okay. And I'm like, I went back to the old harness and it worked. We came home, we measured the harness. We go, oh, it's about a 1/2 inch too small. So what it was doing was cutting into her. So the first thing she did was boom. But again, as an example, she pulled at nationals at 22 pounds. Okay. But she was only 10 months old. And so now she's over a year and she's 28 pounds. So the harness is a big difference between 21 and 28 pounds. And
Yeah, of
some people
course.
don't understand that. You just get so comfortable wearing, myself included, one harness that I go, I don't want to change.
It annoys me when I see someone say, I have this harness for sale for a 40 to 50 pound dog.
It's not a 40 to
There's
50
a huge
pound dog.
difference there.
Yeah.
But so many harness makers do that. You'll see them advertise. this will fit a 40 to 50 pound dog. No, it won't. It either fits a 40-pound dog or it fits a 50-pound dog. You know what I mean? Relying on, this is her thing, relying on other people's measurements, that's where it's tough.
That's very hard. So one of the things,
Yeah.
and I understand because not all of us have show dogs that are going to stand there and not move.
Have any.
We don't have not one that will do
And
that.
I can tell you, even when you have show dogs, it's still hard to do all the
Yeah.
measurements. Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, I can't be there to measure the dog myself. You know, I have people ordering from all over. So one of the things that I do, I don't, you know, I'll ask the weight of the dog. And sometimes they'll send me the measurements and it's like, I can tell by looking at them like, okay, you need to do that again because I know that that's not right, you know, because it's just way off. And then some are kind of like, they're in between. And so I'll ask them, you know, can you take a video of yourself measuring so I can see it, or let me FaceTime you, so I can watch you.
Again, customer service.
But then sometimes it's still, you know, because they're trying to hold the camera and the dog's all over the place. And I'm like, okay. So one of the things that I offer, I don't gripe about it or anything, is if you get the harness, send me a video. Send me a video of your dog dragging. Don't just put it on it and the dog's sitting down because I can't see anything. I need weight on the harness. Send me a video. And if it's not right, send it back to me. I'm going to fix it. Yeah, I don't charge them to fix it, you know, but even though they did the measurements I still will fix that harness.
Attempt to fix it.
Yeah. Well, most of the time I get it right. So. But anyway, but where it's hard though, whenever I have, you know, people across the pond order, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope this one fits, you know, because the shipping is so much.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, you know, yeah, if it don't fit, you can send it back. But my goodness, you could buy a whole new harness by the time you ship it back and then I ship it to you again.
Exactly.
But yes, so that's the other thing I like to pride myself on is, I mean, I'll keep going until I feel that it's right. I'm not going to let your dog wear a harness that doesn't fit. You know, I'm not like, sorry, that's what you ordered. You know, that's what you measured. That's your fault. No, I want to fix it. I want it to be right because I care about the dogs. So.
Yeah. But is there any special measurement that most get wrong or not most?
The neck.
But,
The neck.
The neck. Yeah.
The neck, because the dog can turn just slightly and it can go off a whole half inch. Well, that whole half inch can make a huge difference because that is the most important measurement there is the neck. And that's the one that everyone gets wrong. Not everyone, most everyone.
Most everyone. Yeah. Yeah. But is the error that is made, is it often that it becomes too big?
Yes, most of the time it's too big. Hardly ever do I get one where I look at it and say, that's way too small. Most of the time it's too big, and it's where they're laying their tape or the dog has moved, where their starting point is, or they run the tape too far on the outside of the shoulder, which that's still kind of, I'm not sure why you would do that because you're thinking, where's the neck of the harness hitting? But it happens. So a lot of people end up running, when I see the video, the tape is running along the outside of the dog's shoulders. And I'm like, well, that's why you got such a big, or what they do, even though it says I need just one size or one side, a lot of times people measure the circumference like they're measuring for a collar, you know, and I'm like,
see, one of the first things that I told her, I said, let's go to the best weight pullers we know. If we can convince them that this is a better harness and they will switch to them, then we know we're on the right track. So, like I said, we started with Hausfeld's, and then we went to Emmanuel, and then the people called the Maynards, John and Jesse Maynard, started pulling. And so we thought, you know what? And we weren't giving anybody harnesses. We were just saying, here, try this, okay? And when they started ordering extra ones, we said, hey, if they're willing to switch over, because like I said, you know how weight pull people are, okay? And not just weight people, we got a lot of slack because we were still new to the game.
Right.
And so they're like, what do you know about weight pull
and that
harnesses?
was one of my things. I was like, that's why I didn't want to do it. I'm like, people are going to say, who the hell is this person? You know, she thinks she can make weight pull harnesses and she hadn't even been weight pulling.
And needless to say,
so I'm like,
I'm going to do a shout out to all those people we asked to try harnesses, but wouldn't.
Yeah.
Too bad, so sad. Too late.
Well, we didn't ask them to try. What do you think? You know, because I like to pick everybody's
We
brain.
were asking for input.
Yeah, you know, what is it? What do you see about this? You know, what would you change about it? You know, just watching
Always
one of our
taking
dogs.
people's advice.
I was just soaking it all in, you know, from everybody, you know, so I could know what they didn't like about the particular harness they're pulling in. You know, there's a lot of people that they never really said what they didn't like until they knew they could
Change.
right?
Yeah.
And so I started hearing all these little things, and I was like, okay, what do I need to do to fix that problem? So, and it was, I went through a whole lot of harnesses, a whole
Yeah.
lot. And
I can
And I just
imagine.
kept pushing her.
because I was like, I don't want to do it. You
She's
know?
like, people are going to bitch. They're going to complain. I go, who gives a shit? Do it anyway.
So, but yeah, and so one of the things that we do that, and I say we because he's part of this now too, not only because he pushed me to do it, but he kept telling me we need to do something unique.
Different.
Something different from what everybody else is doing. If we're going to do this, we need to do something different. And
She thought I was nuts.
so, you know, I've seen, you know, people would embroidery, you know, like names of their dog. And I had people ask me if I would embroidery. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I don't do that. Or they were wanting something on their spreader bar. Well, I've seen a couple of spreader bars that were just like vinyl stickers. Well, that just comes off. I'm like, eh. So he was like, we got to do something. And I'm like, whatever. I've already had some orders come in. So I'm like, I don't have the brain space to be worrying about that. I'm trying to
She
make
just wanted to make
harnesses.
sure they pulled good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure they looked good.
So I'm like, if you want to figure that out, then go on. I'll make them, but you take the time to figure. And he did. And I have to, it's always a funny story. I tell some people, I could be out and here I am driving to, I don't know if you know what a Home Depot is.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
a hardware store. Okay. So here I am going to Home Depot and I get a call from this one, you know, and looking at him, you would never know it. But he goes, could you go to the craft store for me, please? When he was trying to figure it out. I just thought that was the funniest
She
thing.
told me I was crazy.
It was so funny. But he did kind of, it took a same with the harness. It took a long time to figure out. I don't know if you've seen some of the custom one of a kind that I
No,
do.
I've seen some, but I haven't dove into it and looked
Yeah,
so
so
close on
we-
them.
Personalization
It's
is
personalized. So
Yeah.
we make our own webbing. So one of the options that you can do is we make our own webbing and it is a custom one-of-a-kind designed only for you webbing. So you're never going to see the same harness anywhere else.
So hold on one second. I'll get something. I'll show
That's
you.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll have somebody like one time, someone asked about a Harry Potter theme. So he created one that was like the map, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. And so he wanted to do all of that. And I'm like, I don't have time to be worrying about that. And I did. I told him, I said, when he told me all the equipment he was going to buy in order to do it, I said, you're wasting your money. These people aren't going to be, little did I know. So it's funny because now when people order their one of a kind, he is the design team. So that's him. So we kind of become a team now. I'll tell him what their thoughts and visions are. Just recently I had one tell me that that she wanted her dog's name Omen. And so she wanted like something spooky and, you know, that sort of thing. So he has created, and I'm working on this one right now as we speak. And he created this design. It's like a cemetery look with, you know, a pentagram and this like green smoke and stuff on the webbing. And it's really amazing.
So
He's back.
He's
To
back.
show you what a entrepreneur I am, I just now thought about this. This is breaking news. We used to call it fully customized harness, but now we're going to call it maxed out.
Oh.
See, so
Perfect.
here's a fully
Perfect.
customized. This is the webbing. You see how it says domino?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so the fleece on the inside is Domino's,
Yeah.
and the spreader bar is Max
Nice.
Performance. So now we say, do you want a maxed out harness? There you go. But yeah, she thought I was totally crazy when I said personalization sells. So not only do they look good, they pull good.
Yeah.
And
And
he
that-
can pretty much design anything. I mean, you give us ideas, what you're picturing, themed, right? Like for Emmanuel, we did one that was Mighty Mouse for his dog Mouse, had Mighty Mouse all over it. Batman,
Brian has a new dog, Dog Holiday. So I can't wait to design that one.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
We just had one that was the nickname to the dog is Gummy Bear, so it's gummy bears all over it. So we make the webbing and it's personalized, and I tell everybody, like, someone will see it on my page and they're like, I want one like that, and I'm so it's got to be different.
It's you got to pay attention to details.
It's one of a kind, and that's what I'm selling it as a one of a kind. It's designed for you specifically, and I will, unless you say it's
not
okay.
For you, but for your dog.
Well, sometimes I think it's for the person.
Unless, of course, we can see a harness on you. That would be
of course. Yeah. a big one for me. Yeah.
So, funny story there. So I took one of the biggest harnesses we have that was for our Borbal when I first started doing this, and I don't have proof, so don't ask for it. There's not a video, but I
have a picture somewhere.
No, there's not. So I actually put the harness on and got on my hands and face. I got on my hands and knees on the track and
said,
pulled.
Where does it pull?
I wanted to feel where the pressure was. And I know I'm not built like a dog. But I wanted to see, just to see where do they feel most of that pressure at. So yeah, there was a lot that went into trying to figure out how to make them once we decided.
It seems kind of like it was overnight, but it's not.
No.
I mean, if I told you the amount of mistakes that were made, but we just, once we, like anything else, once we commit to saying, all right, let's make a business out of this. I know, because all of the rest of our stuff is businesses. So if you're not customer oriented, if there's not something different about what you offer, and basically I would tell people the product will sell itself if it's worth it. You know what I mean? You don't have to. The reason I say the product will sell itself is she never did a lot of advertising.
No.
It was strictly word of mouth, and it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And still today, we don't really do any advertising. We just,
I let my customers advertise for me. And I think my biggest advertiser would be Emmanuel. That's not a surprise, but he
was very clear in the first interview with him.
He's a promoter. He's a promoter, and actually the only reason Emmanuel tried it is because Brian told him to try it. So, you know what I'm saying? So if Brian hadn't have given us an opportunity, we might not be where we are, because again, great weight pullers are superstitious very much, and they don't want to try anything new. But, all the stars aligned right, and other people were going out and we were coming in. And so Brian convinced Emmanuel to try it. So we sent Emmanuel one. Emmanuel convinced the Maynards to try it. The Maynards, and it goes on and on and on and on. Now, there was a lot of angry people, angry harness makers, and it got nasty for a while. But Leeann's different than me. She stayed out of it. She goes, I don't care. Let them talk. Let them do what they want to do. And me, I'm like, no, let's fire back. But I stayed out of it. But that's why I said, let's do something different. You know what I mean? And right now, there's nobody besides her that's offering fully personalized harnesses, and they work, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, we are the only harness makers that are currently still pulling. So a lot of them don't pull. And things change, everything progresses, things do get better, webbing gets better, designs get better. And we just happen to know some serious rocket scientists, that say, hey, if you do this, you do this. And I go to him with stupid questions and he'll try to answer them for me, but he always comes back with what are you trying to do? So,
Yeah, but it's still physics or
Yes.
everything. So
Yes.
when you change one angle and then, yeah. And if you should be really honest, at least over here, we do both rails and we do on dirt with wheels. And they're the point where you attach the harness. It makes a very
Yes.
different angle. Yeah. And
Yes. And I would tell
probably you should
people,
have different harnesses depending on what type
yes.
of track you're pulling on. Yeah.
And I would tell people, which we have not designed yet, but I did tell some people about it. If you were to ask me, and maybe it wouldn't be that great of a difference, but I would tell you the difference between a dragging harness and a track harness and a cart harness are 3 different things. That's what I would say. Now, no, not everybody's going to go out and buy 3 harnesses for 3 different things. However, I would tell people, if you spend the time and the money and the effort to buy a personalized harness, don't drag with it.
No.
You know what I mean? You keep it for what it's meant for, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
what you just said, it's the angles are different, you know? Now, it may not be that big of a difference, but if you've got dogs pulling close to the same, it might be the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I always had a dragging harness and then a cart harness or competition harness, and the competition harness was way shorter behind the
Yes.
spreader bar. Yeah, or
But if
from
you
the hind legs to the spreader bar. Yeah.
but if you lengthen it, then your angle's going to change. You know,
Yeah.
that's going to be the thing. The width of the spreader bar. Some people would know or wouldn't know that there's that much thought process that goes into it. You know, but everything you change, it changes the harness.
Yeah. I saw the harness that you showed. It's tape around the neck.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the most common one you are doing?
Yeah, so most people do ask for the taped and rolled neck. I'm going to tell you that I think, because we have come across this, we live in Texas, so it doesn't really get that cold here. But I'm going to tell you, in cold weather, that gets very hard and crunchy. You know, it's very, so
Plus, I would tell you, if someone wanted a puppy harness, I would say flat neck.
yeah.
If you want an older harness, then yes, a rolled neck is okay. But we always start our puppies in flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so over
Yeah,
here,
but
the typical harness is a flat harness. We don't have. I've seen like maybe 3 or 4 taped necks in competitions the last years over here. But then of course I have a foot of snow outside the window, and it's yeah. I can't tell you in Fahrenheit, but it's like -10 centigrade. Yeah, so of course the tape will be very hard outside
yes.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
see, we will start our puppies out in little bitty harnesses. You see?
yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just, you know, we start them out real young, just putting a flat neck harness on them. But again, I understand, how long will that harness be good? Not very long, because the puppy will grow. You know what I mean? So when we start having trouble putting it over the dog's head, we switch to a little bigger one. And I would say, would you say that it's probably better to have a harness a little too big or a little too small?
Oh, definitely a little too big.
A little too big.
A little too big.
If it's small,
yeah.
it cuts
Yeah.
in. It's no good.
Yeah. So a little big.
And then and then they rise.
They will
Yeah.
rear
the
up.
chest
Yes.
up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but then too big, it's over the shoulders. So
Yeah.
there's that happy medium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, most of the people that try out, or at least when I started pulling here, we have like non-profits with like 10 or 15 people pulling, and then you borrow a harness in the beginning, and then all harnesses are too big.
Yeah.
But it's and it shows a lot when the dog tries to pull in a harness that doesn't fit. they can't either. The front is hindered, so they can't move very well, or if it's too tight, then you scare the dog because you have to force it over their head. Yeah.
Right.
So, but have you? I'm not sure if this is actually a big question, but in my mind it is. When you compare the flat neck with the taped one, is there a performance difference in those harnesses?
I haven't noticed one.
No?
Particularly, my little Oreo, the little 19-pound, she pulls in a flat neck. That's probably the only dog that we have that pulls in a flat neck, but mainly because she's so small.
So you know how advertising dog food, they're not selling to the dog, they're selling to the human. Here's the same thing. If we were to go, oh, look how soft and comfortable this harness is, people go, I want that for my dog.
Yeah.
You know that. So everything you sell, the dog doesn't care. He doesn't care if it's flat or if it's round.
I mean, as long as you have like that padding
As long as
and
it's
it
fitted.
fits right, you know. But
We
honestly,
made one for Emmanuel
yeah,
that was neoprene, and I love the harness. However, it shoots the price of the harness way up. You know, it was like a wetsuit with the foam, and it
Yeah.
was nice, but super
Yeah.
hard to make, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not the dog pulled better in it, I can't tell you.
No.
You know, if the dog could talk and you say, hey, you like that? Hell yeah, it feels good on my neck.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people really just like the taping designs, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, so they see that's like, oh, it can do all the different designs on it.
So rule number 1, if you order a harness and the spreader bar is padded,
oh,
don't
Have you
ever buy from that harness maker
have
again.
you seen that? Have you seen?
No,
where
I
some of
haven't
the-
seen that.
So
Oh,
here, there's I don't know who does it. But
now you
there,
know who does it. You just ain't gonna say.
but
If they say, "Do you want your spreader bar padded?" No, why?
it's so that it doesn't hurt the dog when their feet hit it. Well, the dog's
Oh.
feet are not supposed to hit
Yeah,
the spreader
I
bar.
made that same
exactly. Yeah.
face. Yeah, so
That's
just some things, you know. And I mean, again, you've heard me say there are some people out there. One person that I know of in particular that made some really good harnesses. So I'm not going to say there's not other good harness makers out there.
I never claimed to be the best harness maker ever, you know.
But I will say we provide the best customer service in my eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we offer the custom
Personalization.
one of a kind, you know. Again, and I said to him just earlier today, it's kind of, there's Nike, there's Adidas, you know. Some people prefer Nike, some people prefer Adidas. Who cares? You know, it's whatever
Exactly.
you like, you know.
But if I put on Adidas and my dog pulls more weight than he ever did, I'm going to pull in Adidas.
Of course. Yeah. And never change. No.
Yeah, and never change.
No.
Even if he's 5 pounds smaller, I'm not changing.
Exactly. That's the superstitious part. Yeah. I think that's why, in my mind, the flat neck is
Do
the
you
best
pull with
because
flat neck?
I've only had that.
That's all they have.
Yeah.
Yes.
All you have is flat net.
Yeah, pretty much. And the only no, maybe the first 2 or 3 months I started. It's a long time ago now. Then I had it wasn't taped, but it was the rolls in the neck. Yeah, I borrowed a harness like that, and then I ordered my first harness from. Unfortunately, she has stopped making harnesses here in Sweden, and she was amazing. But those were flat necks, very very padded because she used both the fleece and some like teddy. Yeah, so it was very thick, but I had big dogs, so it wasn't an issue with that. So, but
And how many dogs are you pulling at the moment?
At the moment, I don't pull anything.
What?
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find a dog that I wanted to buy the last couple of years. So
I think Emmanuel has a litter coming up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. and I pulled a lot, and then it was a little bit too much when the COVID hit and my dog got sick, and in just a couple of weeks I had to put him down, and it was
Oh man, I hate to hear that.
it was hard, and then I just haven't found the the litter, and probably because I wasn't looking outside of Sweden, so and that's a fault of mine, and I've learned this year how the weight pulling down in the rest of Europe has a lot of good dogs and good breedings. So but
Are you going to get one soon?
Yeah, so hopefully hopefully this year. I would really like that. I'm very excited to start pulling again.
Look, we changed the whole conversation to him. Look, now we're interviewing you. See?
Yeah, of course.
Totally, I did
but you've been talking so much, so that's the point with it. So that I am, and especially talking with all you guys from America, it really set a new fire in me to actually do the deed myself again. Yeah.
So Leeann and I discussed this before we got on here with you. See, we're going to offer you a weight pull harness. All you got to do is pay the shipping. So as soon as you get a dog, you let us know. Awesome. We're gonna make you a Maxx performance believer. You see?
Yeah. That sounds really, really good. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Stands until you get a dog.
Yeah. So I need to get a dog now. Yeah.
Most people get a dog before the harness, but you're gonna get a harness before the dog.
I get a harness before the dog. Yeah. Actually, I was almost at the point where I was gonna build a track this just a couple of months ago, and then I talked with a dear friend, and he said, "Well, get a dog first."
We didn't.
No, you didn't.
Hey, next thing you know, you're going to be building harnesses. Look out.
Yeah. No, I'm not that crafty. No.
But that's what we did.
Yeah, and it's I love the story. It was Leeann. You told me you had a good story, but this one was way better than I ever thought. Yeah,
and we left a lot out. Trust me.
Yes, it's a little.
We didn't tell you about the fights we had in between.
No, of course, but yeah, that comes with the territory when you live together. Yeah. So yes, back to you guys now then. So how many dogs do you pull at the moment?
We pull 4 for sure, possibly 5 at the moment. I have one American Bulldog left that I pull. She's super sweet. She could be really good. She injured her leg about a year ago when she was a young pup. She actually got in a fight with her mama. And so I put her up for a while. I pulled her. Actually, I went to pull her at ADBA Nationals and she was in heat, so I didn't pull her. Then I pulled her at UPF Nationals and she got second or third. I don't remember. Second or third, but she did really, really well. Okay. And the thing about her is some people say there are not many dogs that love to pull. This dog, she loves to pull. In fact, if you ask anybody in the United States that has seen her pull, they're like, she is the happiest dog in the world.
She's so happy. She's just her whole body wiggles when she's done. She's I'm just so happy.
Even if she doesn't get it, she's like, did I do good? Did I do good? Did I do good? And I'm like, so I hate to not do anything with her. You know what I mean? But I don't want to risk her. So the thing is, now what I think I would do is hook her up a couple of times, let her do the pulls, and let her go. If it's lightweight, I mean, she loves it. She is super duper happy. But right now we have her dog that's going to pull 25 and under. That's Oreo.
That's Oreo. She won ADBA Nationals and UPF Nationals this year.
Yeah, she won this year. Then we have Domino, who is probably going to pull 25 to 35. She could get below 25, but maybe 24. Then we have Piglet. Piglet is going to pull maybe 25 to 35, or I might try her in UPF 30 to 40. And then we have Tigger. Tigger is a really good 40-pound dog, 35 to 45 or 40 to 50. And then we got a brand new little one, which nobody even knows yet, except for a few people. His name is Cena. And he's a little bitty pit bull off of Jordan and Hey Dude. Hosfeld's Hey Dude.
Yeah.
That he's how old now?
10 weeks.
He's 10 weeks. And that was the one you just saw in the video that we're starting.
Oh.
So that's the first time we've made an announcement that we're going to be pulling him. He's he'll probably be 30 pounds or something like that. But the real truth is I pulled only female dogs. Leann's pulled only male dogs except for her little one Oreo. So
Yeah.
I got this dog Cena for me, and that ain't happening. She's already sold my dog. So
But there is a big difference between the sexes
so
when it comes to pulling.
So why do you say that? Now I'm going to interview
Yeah,
again.
I had one of I actually I competed with one of both, one of each.
So you think
yeah.
strength wise, or you think
No, just the mindset and
the mindset?
how and how they how they
Yes,
can handle pressure. Yeah.
you betcha. Any male dog, like I'll work a lot of the male dogs. She'll start them out as little bitty puppies, and then I start dragging them. So we do it as like a teamwork thing. But you are so right. The male dog mentality is totally different than the females. All of my females. Oh wait, you know what? I said that, but I take that back. Was it a month ago? A month ago, a friend of mine called me and he said, "Hey, Ron, do you remember this little puppy that I brought out to your house 6 months ago?" I said, yeah, I think so. Well, he had, in a work accident, he looks like he almost cut his arm off. Okay. And
Not the dog,
not the dog, the person. And so
Yeah.
he hasn't worked. So he hasn't,
Which one?
let me get that right. He hasn't worked that dog. And so he said, "Are you interested in it?" And I'm like, "Not really."
But it is from
It's from a top weight pull line, but he's already 11 months old. And I said, "Let me come see him. And I'll let you know." So I went out to his house. I picked the dog up, looked at the dog, and I said, "Put the harness on him. Let me see you drag him for a minute." And I could tell he hadn't done a lot with the dog because he's been injured. And I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll give it a shot." So I have that dog now, and it's like 42 pounds. Beautiful dog. Absolutely beautiful dog. A little older than what I like to train. It's like me starting out a dog at 11 months old. I would rather start him out at 11 weeks, but I'm not like everybody. You know what I'm saying? So some people don't want to start their dog to their 11 months. Me, if I haven't started a dog now I don't mean pulling weight, but if I haven't started a dog on the drag track running back and forth by the time it's 10 weeks, 11 weeks, I'm behind in my eyes. I'm not. And again, it may be a hollow chain just making noise, bing, ling, 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 and everything's a fun game, know? So we do that early on, but I'm like a lot of these guys like Brian and Emmanuel. I'm not going to say, "Hey, start your dog at 8 weeks," because some people think I mean putting weight on them and pull them. And that's not what I mean. I'm talking about playing the game and having fun.
So I've made a harness that looked like a little
For
ornament.
a little Patterdale.
It was like, as a puppy, he was only 4
pounds.
4 pounds. And so I made this little tiny little, that was a great thing, that with making harnesses, we get a new dog, I'm like in there at the sewing machine. I need a new harness, so I make a harness because we let them run around our studio, with a harness on and get used to it. Oh, yes, we're here in our dance studio now. And not only do we have the track outside, but being in Texas, it's super hot in the summer and humid. And we're down towards the coast. So the mosquitoes are very bad. So with us having the dance studio that's air conditioned, he was like, "We need to be able to work our dogs in the summer." So he built a drag track indoors. So not only do we have our dance studio here, we also have a 32-foot
Yeah,
drag
so
track.
all of our dance
in our
students
dance
probably
studio.
think we're nuts because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
come in and they go, "What's that?" I go,
We have
So-
3 treadmills in here.
"So
We
to
have a
let
drag
you see, this is our studio. See our ballroom studio. What you see over against the wall is a drag
Yeah.
track. So when our students come in, they're probably like, "What the hell do y'all do?" And and not all of them agree with it. I will admit, some of them are like,
Yeah.
"You make those dogs do that?" I go, "No, I don't
Yeah.
really make them, you know." So
Yeah. You will always get those people
you betcha.
that doesn't know what it's about and all that stuff. Yeah. I really love the contrast though. Ballroom dancing and weight
Hey,
pulling. It's
Dancing and dogs.
You have to admit, the first thing when you saw me, you said ballroom dancer.
yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, it's amazing. Yeah.
You know, it's actually I think I prefer he's going to say it's probably not much different teaching people than
No, it's
teaching
not.
dogs. You know, dancing versus training a dog to do something physical.
Except
you
the
know,
dog doesn't talk back to me.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes. So we prefer the dogs over the people.
Hey, you can't say
I-
that. People are going to see that. That's it. Now our other business is shot. So much for her being an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody knows I like dogs.
yeah, but it must be a big difference because dogs doesn't think that much as humans do. When you teach the humans, they start to think, and the dog just do pretty
Right.
much.
Well, you know, I've told Brian and Emmanuel, they know about the new 11-month-old dog that I got. And I'm not going to lie to anybody. That's the hardest dog for me to train because he's already almost full grown and I still need to treat him like a puppy. And that's the problem is, but I look at him and I go, "You're a big dog. You should be able to do this." So mentally it's me. It's not the dog. You know what I'm saying? So,
Exactly.
but
Yeah,
we have a question for you though, real quick.
yeah.
How many followers or people do you have that watch your podcast?
Oh, not that many. It differs a lot. On YouTube, it's somewhere between 20 to, I think the most is 600 views only.
Now,
So it's not that much.
Are you involved with dog pulling at the moment, even though you don't have a dog?
No, for me, it's the podcast at the moment. Well, I'm a part of the extended board of the Swedish Weight Pull Association, but not that much at the moment. I started the Swedish Weight Pull Association when the last organization died in 2017, just before the pandemic, and then I was extremely involved. And yeah, it burned me out a little bit. So I took a step away from it, and
So
yeah.
you have friends at the moment that still pull?
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
a lot of them. Yeah.
So you go and you edit this program and then you post it? How soon after this do you post it?
It depends a little bit. So probably this will be in a couple of days, and
Okay.
then it
1 month
depends.
or 1 week.
Sometimes I have a lot of recordings back to back, and I try to, when I have a lot of them, I try to make it 2 weeks apart. Yeah,
2 weeks.
2
Okay.
weeks. Yeah.
So we're making an announcement right now. 2 weeks from the date that you post this podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyone from your area that orders a harness, 25% off.
Okay.
Got
Awesome.
that?
Yeah, you got
25%
that.
off. That'll basically probably cover the shipping.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. But so anybody, that way, if people over there want to try it at 25% off, that's a pretty good deal just for
That's a
watching
really
your
good deal.
broadcast. How's that for a businessman? You see that?
That's a really good deal. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, and it's because over here we have a couple of harness makers, but the demand is way bigger than the supply, and it's been that that way since I started in 2011. Yeah. And
so what does an average harness over there cost in euros? Y'all euros, correct?
Yeah, most of Europe have it. We have the Swedish
you look
krona.
disappointed that you're all euros. Look at that.
Yeah. We fought hard. I was one of those who fought hard that we didn't get the euro here in Sweden.
Like how I changed this interview over to you?
Yeah. That's good. It's good. I'm not really sure at the moment. It can somewhere between like 150 euros, I think, from well, the cheapest ones, maybe 100 euros up to 300, 400, 500 euros for the extreme ones.
Yeah.
The most expensive one that I bought in 2017, that was 300 euros pretty much. Yeah.
Well, now you know, 25%
out, so to speak. Yeah.
25% off if they watch your podcast. Made in the good old USA.
Yeah, made in the USA. That's good. Awesome. Should they? How do they make sure? How do you make sure that they have
that China's not imitating us?
No.
In your podcast.
Yeah. That's good.
Just tell, and we'll know that it's being shipped overseas.
Yeah.
Anywhere besides the United States, if they order it and they see your podcast, 25% off.
Right.
Perfect.
They can. Yes.
Don't tell me mailing addresses in Texas, and I go, I'm from Sweden.
That's good. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a really good deal. Yeah. I hope that there will be a couple of orders.
It doesn't matter as long as it's out there. We're good.
Yeah, I really like it. I thought first when I've seen especially Emmanuel's harness on Machine Gun Kelly. Yeah, that's yours. Yeah, and I've seen a couple of others, and I thought that the webbing. Oh, they have a lot of special designs over there. We don't have them over here.
No,
but now I know why.
Now
you
know why.
Yeah, and that's I know that's one of the big issues when you try to personalize a harness over here. It's to find the right webbing or.
Check out the Maxx Performance Facebook. You'll see she posts all the harnesses on there. There's some really cool designs, and every time we make one we go, oh, I think that's my favorite, and she'll go, I think this is my favorite.
It's really fun to work with people that want the custom, because they tell me their ideas. It's like, well, the dog is named this, and then I'm like, okay, is it named? Sometimes it's stuff I've never heard of, some anime character or something. And I'm like, can you send me some pictures of, the character that you're talking about? So they start sending me things, and just working with them to try to make the design come to life, so they give me all of this, and then I give it to him. And I'm like, this is what they want. And he's like, sometimes, or he's like, oh, that's cool. So sometimes
I have not received one paycheck. I just want to point that out.
No.
She's not even paying me for the labor. She'll go, oh, they appreciate it. I'm like, thanks.
I said,
a pat on the back at least.
Yeah. It's like, you're not in the green yet.
That's
you bought all that equipment.
I bought my equipment over a year ago. She says, you're still in debt.
It was expensive.
I was in debt when I married her. You see, that's the truth.
And see, I did the same thing, though. Whenever I would have someone order a harness, I wasn't making money off of it because I was using that money to buy more materials that I needed. And that's...
So how long have you been making harnesses about now?
I'm still in the red. I'm not in the green yet. But that was the other thing, too, is trying to find... I spent a lot of time ordering a bunch of crap. I would get it, and it was not good quality or what I felt was good, because the couple of harnesses that I did order before, and I felt it, and I'm like, that's going to dry rot. It's going to tear. Eventually, it's going to not...
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not easy on harnesses.
No,
I leave them laying out in the yard in the rain, but that's because I'm married to a harness maker. That's the bonus, right? honey, I don't know why you made such a cheap harness. It ruined. You know?
Leaves it laying in the yard.
No, but I will tell you, you can pick up a harness and you can feel the difference.
Yes.
And I mean that. You pick up one of her harnesses, it feels nice. The stitching is straight. It's good. It's made good. And we're fixing to start making tugs, believe it or not. We're going to start making barrel tugs and wall climbing tugs. And the big one that's coming
Collars.
ASAP is matching collars.
If they have the personalized, I've had a lot of people ask for it. And we can do it. It's just the time, you know, so trying to
So
find
that's coming soon.
that is coming.
Breaking on your podcast. New news.
Yes, because people order the custom, you know, harnesses, so they want a matching collar as well. So that we will start doing also with that.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The expensive one, as I call it, the harness I bought, it came with a matching collar and a matching lead as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
just to let you know, it didn't come with it. They charged you for that shit.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
But
of course.
hey, it was the sales pitch that worked.
Yeah.
I understand.
But
Yeah.
Look,
all
hey, this
matched.
one's
Yeah.
100 euros more, but we're going to give you
Exactly.
a collar and
Yeah.
a lead. Yeah, we're going to use that
Yeah.
same pitch.
But
You see what I
it's a way to show the personality when
Yes.
you pull, and
Yes.
it's
So-
I really love it. Yeah.
I'm not going to name any names, but so you start with
I will.
you have these national champion weight pullers that's been pulling for years. I don't need any fancy harness. As long as it pulls good, that's all I care about. Then all of a sudden, they start seeing some of these things I can do. And they're like, hey, you know what I want? I want this. I'm like, what happened to you just want a plain old harness? Now you want all this fancy stuff. So it's really funny.
So we love it because, you know, the fact that they're excited about what we do also, we like that.
So I have another story, and I'm sure he won't mind me telling you this. So Emmanuel, so he's one. So I make him his first harness, and I did the fancy tape neck, right, with
Black and green.
Yeah, he had military green and black, and so I did, you know, all of this fancy tape neck.
So we were jacking with it.
So I sent it to him, and he goes, okay. He goes, yeah, I love the harness. He goes, but it was Vader Jr. at the time. He said he's going to be cut weight, you know, so I'm going to need a smaller harness for when he cuts weight. He goes, but don't do all that fancy. I don't need all that bling, is what he said. He goes, just make it a black neck. And I'm like, okay. So this kind of, as you probably already realized, talking to us for over an hour, we can be kind of a smart ass sometimes. So anyway,
That's kind of like sweet ash, but
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and remember, my background is custom ball gowns, which has all the rhinestones and pretty and everything. So I make this harness for Emmanuel, and I look over on my little table, and I have these black rhinestones, and I look at them, and I went, no bling, huh? So on the chest plate, I put in rhinestones on the chest plate of his harness. I put these little rhinestones, just being a smart butt. And it's like he said he didn't want any bling. Well, I'm putting bling on there. So I sent it to him. So and the way I put it in the box, it was like right there. So when he opened it, he could see this shiny black diamond. Well, he thought that was the funniest thing. So now every harness that I make him, and there's been probably 10 or so, has to have the black rhinestones on the chest
Oh.
plate.
don't forget to put my black rhinestones.
My bling on there. So that's kind of our thing. And he's like, I'll know if anybody grabs one of my harnesses. But he went from he didn't want anything to I made him have the little rhinestones, and now he wants all the printed and custom things. So he was one of the ones that went from I don't need fancy to now look at him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now everything is fancy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
With the rhinestones.
Yeah, and I would do the same. It's so nice to see the harnesses with the extra bling or whatever you call it. Yeah, it's really nice to see. Whether the dog is amazing at pulling or it's an average dog. It's
Hey,
I
if it don't
I
pull
love to
good,
see
at
the
least it
harness.
looks
Yeah,
good.
yeah, and it's I
Doing
think it's
those.
yeah the to make the sport a little bit bigger, and that's why is one of the reasons the podcast started to make more people try weight pulling, and I
Yes.
think harnesses is one way to do it. Yeah, everybody likes to make their own brand, so to speak, and can you have maybe a set of harnesses and collars and leads and all and matched it with their clothes. Maybe some people will try to start pulling just because of that reason, and then it's
Well,
nice to
you
make
know,
that possible.
over here we have several different federations. Like, I don't know if you guys do, but you know, there's some that literally pull just for fun. You know what I mean? They don't care. You know, not everybody pulls to be the top champion, but those people are just as important as the ones who pull to win. Without more people, it doesn't grow. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So it is what it is, but I think it's about fun. If you can have fun doing it, you know, it's good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also to take off the pressure when you compete. Not all can handle it, and if you have a little bit of fun with the harness, for example, then
Yep.
it's easier to compete as well. Yeah,
That's one of the things I try to do whenever, and it is getting a little overwhelming because I am getting a lot more orders coming in, but I try to be very personal with everybody. So I don't want them. I don't want a website where they click here and make their order. I want to talk to you. So hopefully I can keep it that way as it continues to grow and grow. But I like to talk to people and joke with them. And I love it because I have people that some of my first orders that are still sending me videos and accomplishments of their dogs, you know. And so I try to chat with everybody as much as I can. And it is a little hard, you know, because
yeah,
we have the studio and we also have an arena with the dog training. And
Translation: we have real jobs.
we're very busy. We're very busy. But I try. That's one of the things that I want to do is to be very personal with the people that is placing an order. You know, because they're very into their dogs. They wouldn't be doing that if they, you know, it's not like just buying
exactly.
a collar at a pet store or something. So I want to be very personal with them when they make their order and talk to them and have them send me videos of their dogs. That's the other thing, you know,
Yeah, we
does your
like to
dog
see.
currently pull now? And they're like, yes, they do. Send me some videos. Let me see. You know, I want to see what your dog is doing now. And maybe I can make some adjustments on some issues that you're having.
But I'll tell you, the pressure on making a person's harness is unbelievable. It is a lot of pressure because you want it to fit right. You want it to look good. You know, like I try to tell her sometimes we'll be making some webbing and she'll go, you know, there's a little light spot right there. I said, tell them this is handmade. You know what I mean? But we're so picky because, but they are handmade. So, you know, sometimes there is some faults, you know, but you don't want, I'm telling you, it's a lot of pressure. Even though I don't sew them, I'm like, did it fit good? And she'll show me a harness sometimes and I'll say, neck looks a little big. She'll go, I don't think so. I go, but I do. You know what I mean? So
I'm like, okay, send me some more angles. Let me see some videos, you know.
but it is a lot of pressure.
And sometimes I'll have some people say, oh, it fits great. And they send me a video and I look at it. I'm like,
We're like,
no,
no, it doesn't. You know
send
what I
it
mean?
back. I need to fix that, you know?
Yeah, because we don't want the Maxx Performance name on something and someone else tell them, hey, it doesn't look right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So we would be the first to say, hey, send that back. It's not what we wanted.
But yes, the stress and then everything into it, because it's not just everybody knows in the house if I'm in my sewing room,
Or sweatshop.
if I have my, he calls it my sweatshop. But if I have my measuring tape on me around my neck and I'm working on that, they are not to come in and talk to me. It's like, La 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 la. I don't want to hear. My mind is on this. Don't talk to me. Don't even walk in my room.
But I just want to point out one more thing.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, you ready for this? It's going to show you. She did not want to do this podcast, but I want you to notice she put the camera right on her in the center, and I'm off to the side. I just want to point that out. She's like, I don't want to do this podcast, but do you see how it is? You should feel special. I'm like, I'm not Maxx Performance. She goes, you work for me. So here it is.
He's the design team. That's what he's
yeah,
called.
of course. And he's the product tester as well. So, yeah.
There you go. The product tester.
Yeah.
I tested her 30 years ago and I bought it.
You didn't know what you were getting yourself into whenever you asked for us to do a podcast. Same thing, crazy Texans.
It's comedy hour, you see?
yeah, of course. Yeah, it's been amazing to talk with you. I probably have a couple of questions more, and one of those are how do you fit everything in? You have the ballroom, you have the Maxx Performance, you have the arena, you have more than a couple, 5 or 6 dogs to pull with, and I imagine you have more dogs at home that doesn't pull.
Yes.
A lot more.
So how do we fit it all in? Okay.
Yeah.
We all, including our 16-year-old daughter, we have our duties, our chores, our jobs. I wake up every morning at 4 a.m. to Piglet going, hey, it's time to be fed and let outside. But once one dog wakes up, they all have to be let out. So I start at 4 a.m. I get up, I put all those dogs outside to go to the bathroom, and I put all their food in their kennels. So the dogs that are currently pulling are the ones that are all inside. So all their food is measured and supplements and stuff like that. Okay. So they're inside, so their nails will grow and different things like that. So that's my job first thing in the morning. Then I start teaching ballroom dancing anywhere from 8 to 8:50 in the morning. After I try to drag at least 2 to 3 dogs a day, I'll start dragging them first thing in the morning. The ones that I don't get to get to the next day. And then when it comes to the evening, Anne and Bailey, the daughter, eat all the outside dogs. Okay. So it's like I do all the morning work, they do all the evening work, and we work throughout the day. So as long as we all get what we need to get done, we do.
Right.
Yeah.
So between teaching dance lessons, if there's free time, it's between the
free time. What the hell is free time?
No.
There's no free time.
Other than the dance lessons. So when we're teaching the dance lessons, the other free time is always dogs. Right. Whether it's making harnesses or working a dog or working in the arena, we have the property. So it's having to keep the arena, the grass cut and things like that for the next people coming out, checking the equipment, the wall, that sort of thing. And then when he comes through the house to maybe get a drink or something in between his dance lessons, I'm like, hey, I got a custom harness I need you to make. It needs to have this, this, and this. And he's like, huh?
but I am the only one. No, but I'm the only one up to literally from 4, I'm up by 4 o'clock. She's usually up by 7 or 8. And so I use that time to start designing because it's still dark outside. And so it starts getting light about 7:30. So from that time to that time, I'll either catch up on the news, and while I'm doing the news, I'm designing something, and then I'll get out and pull a couple of dogs. Then I go teach, and I'm usually slow from 1 to 3. And if it's wintertime, I can pull outside. If it's summertime, I'll pull in the studio. But as anybody knows, if you have more than 3 dogs, it's a way of life. It's not just, you go, I got 3 dogs.
We have a farm.
I tell people it's a dog farm, and between we have almost 7 acres of property. So in the summer, the grass grows. Plus I have 2 rent houses across the street. So I have to take care of those.
And right now he's building me a new building for
a new Maxx Performance Center.
Performance, so I'm not in the house. So
Oh.
I'm going to have my own standalone building that will have all of my equipment and machine.
And I bought her a brand new sewing machine for Christmas.
Oh.
A big one. Yeah, so that'll
Yeah,
be...
there must be like an industrial
Yes.
type of, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully she says it won't speed things up, but I think it will. But, if not, I guess I'll have to start making the harnesses. Well,
there'll just be less cuss words as
Hey,
I'm sewing.
and you know what she'll
Yeah,
say?
yeah.
Make sure instead of made in the USA that you write made by Ron. That way they know when it ain't right. I'm not a good sewer. However, I'm going to be the one trying to make the tugs. And
I told him that's your job. I'm busy enough. So you want to do tugs? Go for it.
but I mean,
But
again,
don't steal my scissors.
remember who's center of the camera, you see?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's not.
But we have a system, that we've acquired. And
Oh, did she just say we work well together?
no, I said we have a system.
I think that's what she just
I
said.
said we have a system that's
You
two
heard it.
different things.
Yeah.
Straight look, it's Broadcast International. She said we work well together. I heard her.
I said we have a system. I didn't say how well it worked.
I translated.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So when it comes to dragging, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But do you go far or short, or how do you do it?
Okay, so if all of my dogs, look at her stick it. If all of my dogs and hers included had any faults, I would tell you it's their starts. Okay, Hosfeld told me several years ago. He said, if your dog can't drag it 16 inches, it's not going to drag it 16 feet. So I went, you know what? That's a pretty good thing. Now, as I'll include on this, being relatively new to the weight pool world, I'll tell you this. There's lots of information out there, but it's very cryptic. It's not told you exactly. It's in a roundabout way. If you listen, you'll understand. If you don't listen, they're not going to help you. Okay. And it's taken me 5 years, and lots of people now will come to me and say, can you help me, weight pool train my dog? Because your dogs look happy. They love to do it. And I say, yes, it's a long procedure, but I'm still learning. And everybody, it doesn't matter how long you've been in it, you still learn it. So you try different things. So the answer to your question is every dog is different. Okay. And if something is not working, I must try something else. Okay. So the answer to your question is, do I drag short or long distances, or heavy or light? The answer is all of the above. And it depends on the dog, you see? And I mean, it's really, again, like Hosfeld's dogs fire out of the hole. Okay. And Emmanuel's dogs, are you ready? Boom, they go. My dogs have all the heart in the world. They will try to no end and give it everything they've got and will not stop. But their starts at the moment suck. So I've got to try something different. So I'm in the process right now of going, let me see. Now, check back with me in a month. When we have our big event, I'll let you know if my experiment is working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, some people might go, that's not how I do it. And I go, it's okay. But again, every dog is different. But it so happens that all of my dogs, their starts consistently suck. Okay. Now, compared to what? To most people, no, my dog starts don't suck. But compared to the very top, my dog starts suck. You
But
see?
none of our dogs will quit.
They won't
None of them
quit.
will jump off the track.
They don't
will
stop.
not
They don't
quit.
jump off the track. They go. So again, and don't think that I haven't asked. Okay. And then the normal person will say, I don't know, Ron. And I go, okay, I gotcha. But those words, as in, again, I'm kind of giving you a cryptic answer. Those words are, if you can't pull 16 inches, you can't pull 16 feet. So the start is everything.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it's very interesting when it comes to, because as you said, everybody has a cryptic answer, and I've been talking to a lot of people the last couple of years when it comes to training, and it's getting more and more difficult to give advice, because, as always, the more you know, it
That you
differs.
don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah. But if I had to give anybody advice, I would tell you, take it slow, and repetition. Whatever you do once, do over and over and over again. Okay. I'm not opposed to correcting a dog, but you can't correct a dog until the dog knows what you want it to do. And that's the bottom line. You know what I mean? Because if you don't imprint a dog from the beginning. So, example, the new dog Kiko that I told you about that I got from the guy yesterday morning, a sign that he understands was I went to put his harness on and he lifted up his left leg. I went, you understand. You know I'm going to grab your leg and I'm going to put it through this harness. Now, is that a big deal? To me, it's extremely big. Okay. And everybody go, what's that have to do with weight pulling? It's because I've done it enough that he says, okay, I'm going to stand here and let you put the harness on. Those are the things you look for, right? If you look for, hey, he didn't make the weight pull, but he engaged. Good boy. You know what I'm saying? And that's what people don't understand. It's not pulling 10,000 pounds. It's not dragging 10,000 pounds. It's you said, let's go. Boom. He hits the end. Great. Good boy. It's no different to me than any other dog training. But it can be rough because, again, with a bigger dog, you go, you should be able to. You should be able to. You should be able to doesn't mean anything, right? We same as any other trainer. We have people go, my dog drags me across the parking lot. Who cares? When I put him up on that track, he's going to look at you as if he's never pulled on a leash a day in his life. So when people come to me and say, can you leash train my dog? What's the problem? He's pulling. Let me put him on this weight pull track. He won't pull very long.
no.
That's the way I look at it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, I think. Yeah. And well, we can, I bet we can talk another 1 hour
We
and 40
could. We
minutes
could
about
talk forever.
trainings. But you said something about an event, and I
Yes.
saw something on Facebook just a couple of days ago.
Yes.
Could you tell me
My
a little bit
Texas
about
polar
that?
pull.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not, we're going to have, and this is at the beginning of the year, it's not unusual for a big weight pull at nationals, but we're going to have some of the top dogs in the nation, luckily pulling off at our house, which our property, our field. So it's not just a normal house, in February, the third weekend in February. So we'll probably have somebody go live. So if you watch the live, you'll get to see where it's at. It's going to be great because at the beginning of the year, it's a good way to find out where your dogs are as far as the end of the year.
Exactly.
Yep, so we'll be holding, it's sanctioned under UPF. So it's a UPF pool. And then we're doing their new triple threat since we have all the equipment. We have the lure and the treadmills and the wall. So we'll be doing those as well.
We'll be going live.
Yeah, so we'll
Nice.
Friday night, we'll have the pool on Friday night.
We'll have a weight pull on Friday night and a weight pull on Saturday night.
During the day on Saturday will be the triple threat with the wall climb and all of that during the day. And then nothing on Sunday. That way people can drive back because we have people driving over 30 hours
From Canada.
So yeah,
Wow.
the furthest is from Canada that's coming down.
Hopefully she makes it.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
the weather holds out. Texas, it can be 80
It could be anywhere from snowing in Texas to sunburn.
within a day. Within a day. So our weather is crazy, kind of like us. Yeah. So like yesterday it was almost 85, 86 degrees. And today it's probably with the wind.
60.
Yeah.
And tomorrow it's supposed to be 40.
Oh, yeah.
The weather changes really rapidly around here. So hopefully in February, it's supposed to be winter, but hopefully we'll have nice weather and no rain.
But
Yeah.
we'll pull one way or another.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I'm looking forward to it and to see the live on Facebook, I presume.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. It should
Uh,
be because Koo's coming.
Yeah.
Koo
So
said he's coming. Koo's always the live guy, or Emmanuel.
actually, you can
Yeah.
broadcast on Maxx Performance, can't you?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. So it'll be available
It'll be-
one way or another.
Yeah, that's really really good. Yeah, I love to watch, and it's your pulls are quite long, so I can like nationals. I actually went to sleep and then I woke up and I could
But
still
that's
watch
because
it. So
that's because of the time difference, correct?
Yeah, that's the time difference.
Do y'all pull under the same rules that we do?
No, we have more like IWPA. Yeah, more like those rules. At least up here in the Nordics. There will be a UPF show in Italy in March. Otherwise, it's
I've considered going to that Italy one because I know Brian and Emmanuel. I told her, I said, I need to see how to ship my smallest dog with me over there. That would be how far is that from you?
For me, it's 20 hours. So
20
I
hours.
will try to drive down there and to watch it. So yeah, that would be really really nice. Typically, when the shows here in Sweden, it's like 2 or 3 hours drive, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah,
I've told her Sweden is somewhere I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, it's
have to
a
come
very
visit
pretty
you.
country. Yeah,
Yeah.
So in my mind, the weight pulling scenes here are really good. It's the rules makes it a little bit harder because we have the more obedience type, because you have to leave the dog on the start line and it can't just start.
That's different.
And that makes a huge difference, I think. And we do a lot of dirt tracks.
A lot of pullers over here, I've watched them pull under those rules. They'll hold the dog and then they quickly jump across the line that you have to be before you do it. Nobody's ever said anything because they know, you know. But I've seen that.
We call that Norwegian handling over here. Yeah, a lot of Norwegian guys do that. So, or did before at least. Yeah.
Don't lie. You call that American handling. You just don't want to say
that. From now on, at least. From now on. Yeah. Yeah. So, but
just from my question though, is if an American came over there with a pretty good dog, how do you think they would fare?
If the dog could stay on the start line and handle that obedience, I think the best dogs in the US will do very good over here.
So did they call that a foul if the dog moves before that?
Yeah. And you have 2 fouls, and then you're
you guys would be looking to foul us out too, wouldn't you? You'd be like, foul. I don't care if you flew 2,000 miles. Foul.
Story time.
Yeah.
So when we first started, everyone knew, obviously we were new. We're new. We had our track. We held an event here at our place. And I had Major, which he was just a beast of a dog.
He was good.
I wish we knew
what we know now.
What we know now when it comes to the training when we started him. But he was still really, really good comparative to being newbies ourselves. You know, we see new people and their dogs are jumping off the track and they're not pulling and they're lunging. Anyway, so we hold this event and we have some seasoned weight pullers here. And they're
going to watch this and know what we're talking about.
I don't care. So anyway, so we don't even really know the rules, right? All we know, we've just been working on training him to pull. And so they look at our trophies. They're like, oh, how do you win that? Da 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 da. So I put him on the track and to get just a confidence pull in, and he's like, and just goes. I mean,
Screams down the track.
He was a fast
3-second pull. You know what I mean?
He was 85 pounds, American Bulldog, and he pulled very fast. He was just a very he's kind of crazy, but they saw that and they were like, holy cow, they were surprised. So I waited, I did my passes and brought him back in, and it was heavy, and he went to jump off the track. Well, training and my mindset were on our track. The first thing I did, and at the time UPF did not have
any fouls.
Now we have 1 foul, but there were 0 fouls. I went and I just to get him, I went to get him back on the track because I'm like, you are not doing that. Well, as soon as I did that,
every guy there,
every one of them there.
Notice that said every guy there.
Yes. Scared the living daylights out of me because they yelled, oh, and I'm like, oh, but they were like so happy that I found my dog because I was getting ready to kick their butts, probably.
And the new guys on top of it.
Yeah, but they yelled that so loud. I was like, oh my gosh, do you have to be so mean? What did I do? I said, I'm like, oh, I touched my dog. So it was just that. That's when I realized that.
So the translation is, it's hard to break into weight pull over here.
It's like a click.
It's a click. The people who've been pulling for a long time, they won't even give you the time of day. And I mean that.
Look at you.
With respect due to the people I know, like the Hosfelds are very nice. They help everybody out. Emmanuel helps everybody out. But even with people helping you out, there's a lot of them. They won't even give you the time of day.
Yeah. It's been like that over here from time to time as well. We've been working really hard on that, or not me because I'm not a part of the organizations.
But soon you will be. No,
but soon I will be. Yeah, but
with your brand new Maxx Performance harness.
Yeah, of course. But it's a pity that it's like that because competition is always good.
It can turn away a lot of new people, and we're kind of different, as you can tell. So we were just like, whatever.
I mean, I can tell you without Brian's help, I would have probably not been able to build a track, or at least one is good. But in the beginning, it is a shame.
He's running. You're running from the camera.
No, I'm not. I'm just leaning to the side. I'm broke. I'm like some of those dogs. I'm leaning to the left rail. She wants me to pull right down the middle. No. But in the beginning, it's hard because Brian and them told me, and I never understood. Same with Emmanuel. A lot of times these experienced pullers don't want to help people because they're not going to be around very long anyway. You know what I mean? And most of them don't listen. So we've I think hopefully all you guys out there in the weight pull world that we've paid our dues. You know what I mean? We've stuck around. We've gone through the rough times. I mean, I've had dogs stop on the track. Dogs look at me stupid. You know what I mean? But if you don't listen, like I said, with the cryptic messages, if you don't listen, you won't get the information. And they all told me your first dog is always going to be your worst dog. And that is true. That is so true.
That is true.
But like I said, it's universally understood that the experienced pullers get frustrated with the newer pullers. I understand, because they don't react as fast as we do. They don't see the things we do, but it's because they've been doing it so long. Okay. So me, 5-6 years, I'm still real patient. When I've been doing as long as those guys, I may be like, but I also, real quickly, I'll tell you the thing, just like when I teach ballroom dancing, I don't lie to anybody. If somebody brings a dog to me and says, I want my dog to be a champion, I'm not afraid to look at them and go, hey, if you want to enjoy pulling, go ahead. If you want a champion, this is not the dog to do it. So I don't think that people, and not that they do, they shouldn't lie to somebody. Don't go, oh man, it's just you're not training the dog right. Because if anybody wants to be honest, which I think I said at the beginning of this, every dog will pull. To what degree every dog will pull, that's a whole different ballgame. If you
Exactly.
look at my first few dogs and how they pulled, it's not because I couldn't train them. I didn't know what I know now, but it was the dog. And like with pit bulls, there is a difference between weight pull bred and game bred. I have
Yeah.
some game pit bulls back there that, boy, they're bad to the bone. You show them a hog, a big wild boar, they're going to jump on it. You put them on the track, they're going to look at you funny. You put the weight pull bred on the track, they're going to jam. You show them a hog, they're going to go, what do you want me to do with this
Yeah.
hog? You see what I'm saying? So even though they're all pit bulls, it's not the same. And I think so many times people try to get a game dog to weight pull. You get them to do it, but don't be disappointed when they don't do what the weight pull bred one does.
Exactly. And I think the big difference when it comes to the sport in the US compared to Europe is the weight pull bred pit bulls.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would have
So
never known the difference
no.
until like maybe 3 years ago. You know, somebody said, you need a weight pull dog. And I'm like, they're all pit bulls. And that's me who's been around pit bulls for over 40 years, you know, but it's not the same. They're both pit bulls. Just like if anybody out there in podcast land does bite work, okay?
Yeah.
All dogs will bite, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that they'll bite when you want them to. And those that are bred for it with years of inbreeding and crossbreeding, those are the dogs if you want to be competitive. And you may have a litter of 8 and maybe 1 or 2 of them will reach the top. The other 6 will pull, but they're not going to pull to the degree.
Exactly. Yeah. And to be when you have so many, because you have a lot of weight pull bred pit bulls over there, and to be the best out of them, you really need to be an outlier
Yes.
genetically. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's yeah. And that's one of the hard things I think a lot of people have. It's hard for a lot of people to swallow that the
It is a
dog.
hard pill to
Yeah,
swallow.
yeah, because
Yes.
you can do everything correct when it comes to training and preparing them, but if the dog doesn't have that extra to be the absolutely best, then it doesn't matter how much
It doesn't
you put
matter.
in.
I
No.
will tell you that every great trainer has had dogs that won't pull. The difference is you won't see those dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's just the cold hard facts. You know what I mean? But for someone else, they may pull great. You see, but for the top people, they go, this dog doesn't cut it.
Yeah, and because there's a place for everybody, but you may not win all the nationals or the important competitions, but you can still have fun and make a really
You
good.
betcha.
Yeah,
That's what I
and
told you about my American Bulldog Karma.
yeah,
She may never be great because her leg was hurt, so I can't train her, but she loves to pull. And that does not stop me from pulling her. Even though I have great dogs, it doesn't stop me from pulling her because I know she enjoys it. And that's more important to me for the weight pulling, you know?
yeah, yeah. That's good, and the community as well. I have realized that you also have a good community over there. When it comes to the weight pull, not all, of course, we are all humans. You can't love everybody, but overall, it sounds like it's really good, and it's the same here. We have a lot of different communities over here, but it sounds like everybody enjoy each other's company. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the
like
big
next
part
month, I
also.
think will be just like a family party.
Oh, it will be a big
Yeah.
party.
You know, here next
We'll
month.
have a welcoming party on the Friday night after the pool. We'll pop some fireworks. We'll do different stuff like that. Unlike you guys, we'll get in the back and shoot some guns. We'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you have that fun part
that's an
also.
invite
Yeah.
to you, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah. Yeah. Guns is not a big thing over here. It's
Yeah,
if you don't hunt, you don't have a gun. That's it. Pretty
yeah,
much.
the
Or you're a
bottom
criminal.
line
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what I would suggest to anybody, only because we are the newer getting into it. Okay. And that's search out good help. If somebody gives you advice and you don't like it or don't think it's right, it's okay, because not everybody's correct. And everybody has a way to get to 100, whether it's counting by ones, counting by twos, counting by fives. The object is to get to 100. If you doubt what someone is saying, it's okay. Take every bit of advice you hear. Keep what you like, throw the rest away, but take it all in. That's the advice I would give to anybody wanting to get into it. And if you don't want to know the truth, don't ask the question, because you really
Exactly.
don't want somebody to bullshit you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like, again, some people will say, don't ask me because you really don't want to know. And then some people will say, do you want to know the truth, or do you want me just to tell you what you want to hear?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the big thing, because if you ask me, I'm going to tell you. Okay. Because I don't want you to waste your time. If you're under the understanding you're pulling for fun, great. You just want your dog to pull. You want to make a TikTok video, superstar. Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody's dog looks good when they're not pulling against the best.
Yeah. Of course.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
nobody knows the difference. If you pull 1,000 pounds and you want to post it online, post it online. The next dog might pull 5,000, but nobody's going to know. Your
No.
dog still looks good,
Exactly. Yeah.
especially if it's in a Maxx performance harness. You like that plug?
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome, guys. 2 hours. Yeah. It's,
I
yeah.
apologize. I didn't,
No,
her.
no worries. It went by quick.
We don't call her
went by
Chatty
really
Cathy for
quick.
nothing.
Yeah, right.
So I typically ask the same question every time in the end. Is there anything that we have left out? Or is there anything special you want the listeners, especially here in Europe or Scandinavia, where the main part of the listeners are?
I think we pretty much covered everything. But I can ship to you guys.
Look at her, she's getting the plug in one way or another.
But the shipping is expensive, and I do believe there is like customs fees or something, once it
Yeah,
arrives.
be aware of that.
But what I've been doing for some of the customers is I've been on the invoice actually stating that it costs less than what it did, to try to save some money, because I think that's how they figure their customs
Hey,
fees,
this
right?
is being recorded. Don't do that.
No.
Our government's listening to every damn thing we say.
But just to try to, because it's very expensive. It's very expensive to ship over there. But I would like for you guys to try them out. But you will be getting one.
But if
Yeah.
I had anything to say, probably, I think out of all the people that you've interviewed over here, we are probably the newest, even though we've done it, we're probably the newest. I can tell you, even though they didn't realize it, there's a lot of them in the beginning that would not give Leeann and I the time of day, would not recognize we were alive, would not recognize that we were trying hard. And I understand. But, keep plugging away. Don't annoy people by asking them questions at a pool.
Right.
Contact them after the pool to ask them questions. That's a big thing. And realize that you're going into their world, which is another big thing, because me being involved in business, lots of business, I tell them all the time, It is a business no matter what you do. Even if you say it's not for profit, it's a business. It has to be run as a business. And some people in the weight pool world, not my good friends, but don't realize that it's still a business. And remember, without the new people coming up, there is no one for you to beat. You see what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So if you only want to beat yourself, keep doing that. But promote. Help the new people out, okay? Because I'm not the senior, but I tried, and I do. I'm not going to lie. I treat the weight pool training as a business, okay? If it's my time and my knowledge, it's valuable, okay? So, but don't ask people questions out of weight pool. That's rule number one, because they're busy concentrating on their dogs. And some people won't tell you that. If you have a question, write it down. Later on, contact them if they're your, I hate this, mentor. I don't believe in mentor. There's no such thing as a mentor. Okay. Ugh. I know all the old guys are going to go, Ron, because they all say find a mentor. No. Trainer, because mentor is somebody who's just helping you. If you want somebody's real time, are you ready for this one? Pay them. Their time is important. Okay. And all mentors out there, your stuff is more valuable if they're paying for it. If you give it free, it's not valuable. No, they don't care. If they pay for it, it's important. And I hate to be that way, but that is the truth.
Well, and I'm going to add something because you say we're probably the newest, but it's kind of like with our dancing. You know, we'll have someone come in and say, "I've been dancing for 10 years, taking lessons for 10 years." But really, they've only in a 10-year span only took maybe 15 lessons. You can't really say you've been doing it for
It's amount of time on
years.
the track.
So I would say, even though, yes, as far as time when we started, we probably are the newest, but as you can tell, we jump into everything. So the
Okay.
amount of dogs that we have, he's out there in the field every single day,
Trying new things.
trying to learn more. You know, a lot of some of these people that have been doing it for 10 years, you know, maybe they've only get out and drag their dog once a week, or they don't try different things, so I would say you're more experienced than just the short amount of time, just because of the amount that you put into it. It's on his mind all the time.
Yeah.
It's same
And
with the
find someone close to you, because it is so hard to help someone at a distance.
Yeah.
Looking at a video is hard. You have to see it, and you have to be there when it takes place in order to help. So that's the advice. Find someone close, even though there's not a lot of people. Find someone close. And I always tell people this: when I'm helping somebody, if I don't know the answer, I'm blessed to know someone that does. And I ain't afraid to call someone and say, "Hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that?" You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's of value. We used to say it all the time. I could tell everybody we're going to have a free Saturday work. Nobody would show up. If I say I'm going to charge $100, I'm going to have 10 people show up because they feel it's of value. Don't get me wrong. We all help our close friends, the few buddies, we all help each other. But when helping newbies, your information is valuable. I can't thank Haasfeld enough for taking his track apart and showing me to do it, because if I couldn't have built the track, I might not be here. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I can't thank them all enough for trying the harnesses, because if they hadn't tried them, then we may not be making harnesses.
And he was adamant. I have to say, he was kind of annoying, constantly pushing me to do it when I kept saying, "No, I don't want to do it." And he was like, "No, you need to do it." He would even call me, "You got to keep doing it," so he
Don't
was,
give up.
yeah. So what Brian was very adamant that I continue to, and I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell everyone that, even the name is after his dog, Maxx, because it was,
And we love the weight pool community.
yes.
We could, the money we spend going to weight pools, we could take a vacation anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of
But
course.
we choose to
Yeah.
go do that with the camaraderie.
Right.
Yeah, you travel long ways to all the competitions, especially nationals. And
Last year, I went to Oklahoma 3 times, Kansas 3 times, Colorado once, Tennessee once, Mississippi once. So and all of those are at least, if I average it out, 12 hours away. So I drove a lot, but it was learning. I had to get my dogs exposed. I had to learn. And I'm not where I want to be yet, but I will be.
Yeah, of course. And
a
when
lot
you
of
have,
people like the idea that we are pulling
Current pullers.
with making harnesses, because then if I'm at a show, I can actually measure their dogs for them, rather than them try to send me the measurements. So and it's good. I think it's good that we currently pull, and not only do we currently pull, but our dogs are pretty good too.
yeah, well, at least 2 national wins last year. So that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hate to stop this, but I really need to
Go to bed.
I need to go to bed. Yeah, I have a 10-month-old human puppy here, so I try to. Yeah, I will try to get some sleep
Congratulations
before
on
she
that
wakes up in the middle of the night. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very, very much. It's been a big pleasure to speak to you, and I hope you get a lot of orders from Europe now.
It's okay either way. You're a pleasure to talk to. We've enjoyed it.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you
very
for having
much.
us. Thank you.